You've seen the videos. A little bird, perched calmly on a buffalo's back, picking off ticks one by one. Nature's perfect friendship. Everyone calls it cleaning. Almost nobody calls it what it actually is. Because the same bird that removes a parasite will also open a wound just to keep it bleeding. And the buffalo can't do anything about it. Oxpeckers have one of the best public relations records in the animal kingdom. Perched on rhinos, giraffes, and buffalo, they're almost always described the same way in wildlife content. Helpful, harmless, a textbook example of mutualism. Two species benefiting equally from the arrangement. Presented as one of nature's feel-good stories. It's not entirely wrong. Oxpeckers do eat ticks, and a buffalo carrying dozens of them across its hide genuinely benefits from having some removed, especially in areas it can't easily reach itself, like the ears and the base of the tail. That part of the story is real, well documented, and it's the part almost every other video about these two animals stops at. It's also not the whole story. Researchers studying oxpecker behavior more closely noticed something that didn't fit the friendship narrative. Oxpeckers don't just remove ticks. They also peck directly at open wounds on their host's skin. And rather than letting those wounds heal, they keep returning to the same spot, reopening it if it starts to close over. Why would a helpful bird do that? An open wound is a reliable, easy food source, arguably better than hunting down individual ticks one at a time across a huge, constantly moving animal. From the oxpecker's perspective, a healing wound is a resource closing itself off, so it makes sense, biologically, to prevent that from happening for as long as possible. This single detail changes the entire framing. This is where the relationship stops looking like two friends helping each other, and starts looking like something closer to a landlord who never quite lets you pay off the debt. Present, useful in small doses, but with an incentive structure that doesn't actually want the problem to disappear. Picture a buffalo with a small wound along its shoulder. The kind that happens constantly in the wild, from thorns, from other buffalo during a dominance dispute, from a close call with a predator that didn't quite connect. Under normal circumstances, it should close up within a matter of days. Instead, an oxpecker keeps landing on it. The buffalo shakes its skin, tries to twitch the muscle beneath the wound to dislodge the bird, even takes a step or two to break contact. The oxpecker simply repositions, waits a moment, and continues exactly where it left off. The wound stays open longer than it should, sometimes considerably longer. The buffalo can flick its tail, shift its weight, rub against a tree trunk, but none of it offers a lasting solution against a bird that's specifically returning to that exact location, again and again, day after day. This is the part that never makes it into the adorable animal friendship compilation. Because it isn't cruelty exactly, the oxpecker isn't a villain plotting harm. It's simply following its own incentives the same way any animal does. But it isn't friendship either, at least not in the way the word usually implies. It's closer to a one-sided arrangement that happens to look sweet from a camera lens 50 feet away. Biologists actually have a term for relationships like this. It can shift along a spectrum, from mutualism to parasitism, depending on the specific interaction, the individual birds involved, the season, and even how many wounds a particular host happens to be carrying at the time. Tick removal alone genuinely helps the buffalo. Fewer parasites, less irritation, lower disease risk. Wound feeding does not offer the same benefit. If anything, it works against the host's own healing process. Both behaviors can happen with the exact same bird on the exact same animal, sometimes within the same visit, switching from one to the other, depending entirely on opportunity. That complexity is exactly why the cute cleaning narrative is incomplete rather than outright false. It's not that Oxpeckers never help, they genuinely do, and that part of the reputation is earned. It's that reducing the entire relationship to one flattering behavior, while quietly ignoring the other, gives buffalo far less credit for what they actually tolerate than they deserve, and gives Oxpeckers credit for a level of altruism that isn't really there. So why doesn't the buffalo just refuse to let Oxpeckers land at all, given everything we now know? Because the net trade-off, over time, still tends to favor tolerance rather than rejection. Fewer ticks generally means less disease risk and less overall irritation across the entire body. Even if a handful of individual wounds take longer to heal than they otherwise would. In the wild, that trade tends to be worth it more often than not. Not because the arrangement is fair in any balanced sense, but because the alternative, a body left entirely covered in untreated ticks, is measurably worse for the buffalo's long-term health. The oxpecker isn't the villain the wound-feeding behavior might make it sound like. And it isn't the selfless helper the cleaning videos make it look like either. It's an animal doing what benefits it most, on the back of another animal that has no real say in the matter and no way to negotiate the terms.